Hey there. So this video isn't going to be a typical vlog video like I normally do. Instead, I want to talk about something that I feel very strongly about, and that is entomophagy. Specifically, the misconceptions that surround it. So first off, what is entomophagy? Well, entomophagy is the practice of eating insects and arthropods, such as spiders and scorpions. Now, this is something that I do, however, I don't do it very much. The reason being that it wouldn't be very practical to me right now, because there's really only two ways available to me at this moment for me to eat insects. One being going into the wild and gathering them myself, which is very time consuming. Being a college student, time is a precious commodity, so that's kind of not a thing I can really do. Or second is to buy them over the internet, and they are very expensive because there are very few people who farm them and very few people who want them. Low supply, low demand equals very expensive. However, there is a third option that will be available to me next year. It could technically be available to me now, but I've decided I'm just not going to do it until next year, and that is farming them myself. This is going to be my insect farm. It's just a 3-drawer thing that I got at Walmart, and anyway, I'll put a link in the description to the video where I learned how to make this and how to use it, in case anyone is interested. But anyway, on to the misconceptions, which I don't have a particular number of, because some of these kind of flow in and out of each other, and also some of these misconceptions are the cause of some of the other misconceptions. First off, there's the misconception that insects are disgusting and that they are only a survival food. So many times when people have found out that I eat bugs, they will ask me why I eat bugs and then start suggesting possible answers. So they'll be like, why do you eat bugs? And then they'll continue on with, is it because of health reasons? Is it because you're preparing yourself for the mission field? Is it because you're stupid and have never, ever heard of fish, beef, chicken, or pork? Whenever this happens, never does anyone ever suggest, is it because you like the taste of them? Or is it because bugs taste good? Never is that ever brought up. I'm not going to say that I don't understand why, because honestly I do. If I just think back to when I had this misconception, and I've also been looking at YouTube videos and stuff, and they've offered some different reasons as to why people might think that they are disgusting. And mostly, I think it's just that it's cemented in our culture. And there's different reasons for that. One idea suggests that it's because of movies and different stuff like that. Like, so often in movies, bugs are presented as this disgusting thing. Think like the Indiana Jones movies, particularly the Temple of Doom, where they have that dinner scene, and there's all kinds of weird things, like chilled monkey brains, eyeball soup, this weird snake thing where you cut it open, and then there's these eels or slugs or leeches. I don't know what the heck they are. They're these weird wiggling things, and they're still alive, and they eat them. Now, to be honest, that part grosses me out because they're still alive, and that's just gross. But along with these different foods, they present some insects, for example, beetles. And I don't know exactly in the story how they were cooked or if they were at all, but they looked like they were maybe steamed or boiled, and they just take the backs off and they slurp out the meat. And then there's another scene in that same movie where Indiana and Shortstop are stuck in this room, and there's like spikes coming down and it's going to impale them, and the only way they can get saved is if Willie sticks her hand in this hole and pulls a lever, but that hole is filled with bugs, lots of bugs, and so it grosses her out, and so she has a very hard time reaching her hand in to pull the lever. Another idea suggests that it goes back to our ancestors who who started farming. And because insects, they would come and destroy crops and stuff and start eating the people's food, they were seen as a pest. And so then eventually there was this kind of ick factor associated with them. And so that's why that we see them as just these disgusting creatures that need to be squished. However, these reasons that I can understand why someone would see them as an ick factor does not excuse people's illogicalness when you try to reason with them. So often, I have talked with someone and they find out that I eat bugs and they'll be like, "Ew, you eat bugs? That's disgusting." And I will say, "How do you know it's disgusting? Have you ever tried it?" And they will say, "No, I have not tried it. I don't have to because they're bugs and bugs are disgusting." So let me get this straight. What you're saying is that bugs are disgusting, and they are disgusting because they are bugs. Do you get the joke yet? This is kind of tiring. From my experience, most people who say that bugs are disgusting are those who have never tried them before. And people who have tried them, from what I know, have found that they actually taste pretty decent. There is one video in particular that I found on YouTube with this guy trying mealworms for the first time, and at the beginning he had the idea that they would be disgusting. And as the video went on, he got really nervous, realizing that this was going to happen.
I'm really getting nervous, actually. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this. Oh god.
And once he finally sat down after he'd cooked his mealworms and everything, he sat down and he's about to eat his mealworms, he started getting really scared.
I can't imagine, I can't tell you what I feel right now. I feel sick, and I don't know if I want to go through with this, but I made such a promise that I have to do it.
And it took him a little while to actually get the mealworms in his mouth. He kept going back and forth with the fork, not wanting to try them.
Okay. Oh my god. Oh. I'm really sweaty right now. Okay.
And then he finally did put them in his mouth, and he started chewing them up, bracing himself for the disgusting taste, and then he realized, oh, these aren't so bad.
It is a really nutty flavor.
And then said,
if I don't look at it, I'll eat it all.
So honestly, I think if people would just try them, then they would see that they're not disgusting. Now, the next misconception is actually one cause, I think, for the first misconception, which is that we eat bugs raw. No. Never, ever, 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 never, 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 never would I ever suggest that anybody eat an insect raw. Because eating insects raw, just like eating regular meat raw, can give you parasites. It's not good for you to eat them raw. It can make you sick, give you worms. Just no, don't do it. Also, we don't eat bugs just by themselves. We cook it with other things. Mix it with vegetables, grind it up into flour, and bake it into bread, along with white flour. And I mean, and some people might try to jump on that and be like, oh, see, you're mixing it with other stuff to mask the taste of it. So that means that you probably don't like it if you just ate it by itself. I really wouldn't want to eat, say, boiled chicken breast by itself. So that's why I mix it with other things and also put seasoning on it. That is one thing people don't think about. They don't think about that these things can be mixed with other things, have seasoning on them. It just... That part I find hard to understand as to why people don't think about the fact that we would cook them with something else. Another misconception is that only people who are crazy or who are in desperate need would ever eat bugs. This is one that I hear a lot. Like, people will say, I would be willing to eat bugs if I was lost in the forest and that's all I had to eat. And then even some people would say, I would rather starve to death than eat insects. And this is pretty much, it's pretty much just going back to the whole they taste disgusting thing, which is a contributor to this misconception. But the truth is that over 2 billion people in the world eat insects on a daily basis. Now, yes, a lot of these people are from third world countries where they don't have that much food, but the reason they eat that food is because it's a very available source. They grow very big in these countries typically because they're like closer to the equator, and there's lots of varieties of different bugs, and so it's just a good food source. But besides people in third world countries, there are plenty of expensive fancy restaurants that serve insects. Okay, technically a lobster is an arthropod, but still.
Note from future me, while editing this video, I realized I was saying the word wrong. It's pronounced arthropod, not anthropod. So, just making that clear.
I mean, seriously, you probably really enjoy eating things like lobster and shrimp and crabs, but why? Why is eating a lobster different from eating, say, a scorpion? I mean, they are both arthropods that have claws attached to their body with 4 legs. I mean, 8 legs. I'm sorry, 8 legs. Why are these different? Okay, a lobster is essentially just a very large insect that lives in the water, as well as shrimp. Lobsters, crabs, crawdads, and then grasshoppers all are within the same family group. Some of them just happen to live in water, and one of them happens to live on land. But when you cook them, they all do this thing where the exoskeleton turns red. They're all the same thing! Different variations. Further still, I find it very strange that people are willing to eat raw fish rolled up in rice and seaweed, but they're not willing to eat an insect. Now, some of you might think that I'm a little hypocritical, thinking that eating sushi would be gross when I've never tried it before. And I've been saying, you can't judge it until you've tried it, and blah, 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 blah. Well, first of all, when I eat insects, like I've established, they are cooked. They are cooked. There's no chance of me getting parasites from them because they're cooked. Sushi, now while I realize there is sushi with cooked fish in it, and it's only some sushis that have raw fish, it's raw. Like, I'm sorry, the idea of eating raw meat, it doesn't necessarily gross me out because I think the taste would be bad. It grosses me out of the association I have of getting sick and then throwing up afterwards because I ended up getting food poisoning. Now, maybe at some point I will try sushi and I will see if it tastes good, all right? If I get the chance to try some sushi, I'll try it. Okay? Okay, Austin, I know you're watching this, and I know they're always like, oh, you should try the sushi, it's delicious. All right, fine. Fine, Austin, all right? Next time you go to the Chinese store, restaurant thing, and you get a California roll, I will try it. All right? Okay? All right, fine. That's an agreement that I hope you don't think of as binding. So anyway, I don't know how informative that video was. It took a very long time to record as opposed to the time that it actually is. So, with that, I'll see you sometime in the future, if I don't die.